Hi guys, thanks for inviting me to the conference, and I'm so gutted that I can't be there to talk to you in person and get to meet up with you. I'm Mark from Swindon, so I'm 27 years old. I've had diabetes for just over 15 years. I was diagnosed in 1999, I think, in July. It's been a pretty crazy journey for me, really, over the last 3 years. So, for 10 years before this, I didn't really take any notice of my diabetes. I'd inject the same amount of insulin twice a day. There was a lot of not testing uh, and stuff like that, like any other teenager, I guess, being a bit rebellious and not not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But in the last 3 years, a lot has changed. I've got involved with some voluntary work with Diabetes UK, and I've also changed insulin. So I've gone from mixed insulin twice a day to MDI, which obviously is any amount of injections from about 4 to 8, depending on how much you want to eat. And in the last 2 months, I have just started on the insulin pump. So it's been a crazy journey for me, but it's been great, and it's shown me that diabetes can't stop you from doing anything. So transitional care for me, I didn't know much about it, to be fair. It was basically a case of I was in a child's clinic, and they said you're now at the age where you need to go to the young adults clinic and then eventually move up to the adults clinic. But there wasn't much going on really for any support or understanding for me. It was just every now and again I'd have an appointment, say 2 appointments following one another. So once with my either with my child doctor and my young adult doctor, or like separately. So the big change for me was obviously my parents weren't the main point of contact for the doctors. It was me. So I would attend appointments on my own, or they'd come with me and wait in the waiting room, and I would then have to go through the results with my consultant or my nurse and explain what was going on and try and get around the fact that I wasn't really testing as much as I should have been. The support was there. There probably wasn't much support really, other than the fact that like I saw both clinics around about the same time, and then eventually switched over and stopped going to the children's clinic, which is a shame really, because I think especially if you've been obviously I was only diagnosed when I was 12, so if you've been diagnosed when you were younger and your parents have been managing the condition, and then all of a sudden you're sort of on your own to explain it, then I'm guessing quite a few people, probably myself included, would have needed the support to be able to open up and feel confident in the clinic setting, to be able to discuss issues, concerns, and obviously admit to the doctor that you maybe don't understand why your blood sugars are going high or why you're going low. So what was good for me about transition? I think it was good that my parents were still allowed to come, and obviously my doctor would talk to me rather than talk to my parents. And then obviously my parents were probably getting a bit fed up of going to the hospital, so they were like, you can go on your own now and obviously start dealing with this yourself and managing it yourself. So the bad points for me were that most of my appointments, being 15, 16 years old, were based around your HbA1c, which anyone that's heard me talk to the CCG locally is it's a bit of a flawed test. I know it does a great job for you guys, and that you can understand, or it helps you understand how well someone's control's been over the last 3 months. You could have 50 high and 50 low readings, and then it balances out in the middle. So your doctors and nurses can think, oh yeah, brilliant, that's great. Your HbA1c is 7.1, and you're doing a really great job. But you can, like, as a diabetic, you can feel absolutely terrible because you're high and low, and obviously there's massive swings in your blood sugar readings, which doesn't make it very good. And I used to walk in there, and it felt as though I was being judged on my HbA1c, which looking back now is probably it probably wasn't, but that's how I felt, and I felt like that was all that mattered really. And once they'd had their 5 minutes talking about that, it was sort of like, here's the door, I'll see you again in 6 months. The other thing that was bad for me was I was on mixed insulin at the time, so 2 injections a day, morning and before evening meal. And the only way MDI was explained to me was that it was 4 or more injections a day. And being 15, 16, I didn't want more injections. I was quite happy with my 2 injections a day, getting on with my life in between, and not being that bothered about having to worry about injecting at any other time. And it was as though 4 injections to me were like, oh, that's going to get in the way even more, and it's going to take over my life, and I'm never going to be able to do what my friends are doing. I'm not going to be able to fit in, and because I'm going to have to keep going off and injecting, and I would say testing my blood sugars, but that happened about once a week, so that wasn't really an issue. So what would I have wanted from transition? I think, looking back over the last 3 years, the journey I've been on in the last 3 years, I think peer support is probably the biggest one for me. I can learn so much from, or I have learned so much from other people with diabetes and how they manage certain situations, like playing sport, going out drinking, and just doing things that their friends do, like doing things with their friends, going to festivals and stuff like that. So I think the peer support thing is good as well, because if you make friends with that person, you've got someone to talk to. So I know your consultant and your nurses and your healthcare professionals are there every 6 months or 3 months or whenever your appointments are scheduled for. But if you've got a friend that you can talk to via social media or text message or phone call, I think it's good, especially when you're having a bad day and they can go, well, yeah, I've had a bad day too. And it's not like a high reading is not the end of the world. You can sort that out and then carry on, and obviously everyone feels rubbish after they've had a hypo, and I think it's just that understanding between people with diabetes. The next thing for me was education, because I understood diabetes and I understood sort of what was going on, but I didn't understand how insulin and food went together, and like how you match that insulin up. So when I first changed from mixed insulin to MDI, I spent an hour with my nurse, and it was quite clear why the mixed insulin wasn't working for me, because I'd inject in the morning and the fast acting would have covered about 50 carbs, and for breakfast I was having 90 carbs. You could quite clearly see why I was running high all the time, because there was just not enough insulin to manage that amount of carbohydrate. So education, I think the educational courses like Daphne and things like that are really good. Again, you get to meet other people with diabetes, so the peer support thing's there as well. And you get to learn different ways of managing, just learning that you can eat what you want and it doesn't matter. You can go out and have an ice cream or have a chocolate bar. So I've looked at the dashboards Jenny's sent over, and yeah, they look really good, and I hope everyone uses them and obviously gets them filled in and looks to put some of them points into place and get stuff going. I noticed there was one bit about a contact person, which I think for me personally here in Swindon's not been a big issue, because I've seen the same team for as long as I can remember since moving to the young adult and adult clinics. But I know a lot of people I speak to, they see a lot of locum doctors or consultants and they don't see the same person every time, so it's a bit hard to build up that relationship and feel comfortable talking about your diabetes and what things you're struggling with when you see a different person who sort of has to review the notes for 10 minutes at the start of an appointment when you only get a 15-minute appointment. So I think a specific contact person that someone speaks to on a regular basis if they're trying to book appointments or they've got a problem would definitely help with the young people and getting to know them and making them feel comfortable. Right, so I could keep talking for ages and I don't want to, because you'll probably get bored of hearing my voice. So my contact details will be hopefully going across the bottom somewhere here, and I know Jenny and Diabetes UK have got them, so if you want to contact me, I'm willing to help out in any way I can, and I'd be more than happy to hear from you. And if you've got any other questions from this video,